times create frequent non-public minutes, it puts a burden on the staff that's managing them and taking them and all that. And I know that the commissioners have spent a lot of time on this issue, and I think that you know, I think that's a point well taken. But I think that they're actively trying to address that concern, and that's what they're doing. And I think that, I'm not going to speak for the chairman, but I'm sure that he's trying to do everything he can to get that information out to the public, as you properly state.
That's why we invited him in. I have had talks with him about non-public meeting minutes as to how much to release, and that's why we invited him in to talk about it today.
Well, following up on what Commissioner Solomon said, if you have a case where there's a grievance from the union and it goes through the whole works, what is wrong with making those public, as long as you don't put the person's name in it? It's in the contract. The public has the right to know how their tax dollars are being spent, and whether you don't need to know what the person's name is, but it certainly would be nice to know how the case is adjudicated. I think we have a right to know, and if it costs us any money.
Or what was the change in the policy that would affect that? I don't see that as being a problem, releasing that.
Well, it gets into gray areas. I mean, and if somebody can figure out who the person is, even though it doesn't really say it, I mean, that's when the problems are created, and then that's when we usually get the call.
Yeah. I mean, you may not, or the public may not know specifically who the person is, but those who work with that person would know.
Yeah.
So in essence, you're doing it, but you didn't do it directly, but indirectly it got released. So you have to be careful, Dave. It's a point well taken, I think.
Go ahead, Maureen.
It says here that their non-publics are meant to be released in 72 hours if they can. If it's a contract, if it's an employee dispute, are you saying that they would have to come to you? They would have to come to you to look at every single non-public to see if it could be released?
I don't think they have to come to me. I think that the commission will be able to pick up on this very quickly, and once instructed, they'll be able to do it themselves.
Because Mr. Basson brings up a good point, is that you could just cross out names.
Right.
And release it.
Right. But I mean, it's
pretty clearly written here.
Well, that's on an issue that can be released. If there's not a problem with the contract and then things like that, then it is released and it is public record. It's only the problems that, by the nature of the negotiations or whatever, becomes under the right to know. The issue of that particular exception, that's the only issue.
All right, well, they've supposedly sealed all the non-public minutes for the last, what, year now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that means we'll never be able to see them.
They're always subject to review.
Not by us.
Not by you.
I guess that's what we're asking.
Right.
Is that we've seen nothing, so how do we know the decisions they've made?
Well, like I said, this gets down to record management, which is time intensive, and which your public officials spend lots and lots of time. If you want that type of scrutiny, you're going to have to provide for it, which means additional staff and scheduling in order for them to be able to process that type of volume. I think they do the best they can under what time they have to devote to the issues at hand as well as the back issues.
I think the thing that bothers me the most is when we take action on a grievance, we can't tell that person that grieves it what action we've taken. Hopefully they can see the action, change in a policy or something, but they don't know. I mean, they would say, well, we came with a grievance and they didn't do anything about it. Well, we can't tell them what we did about it. It's just, you can't do
Why?
that.
They're the ones filing the grievance in a non-public session. why can't you tell them what you're doing? If I understand that's what you just
Maybe I'm
said.
not making myself
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, we do tell them because they have to. We may not tell.
We settled
other
your
parties.
case, but we're not telling you how we settled it? That doesn't make any sense.
No,
You
we
need
do
to,
tell.
you need to tell them
We do
what
tell.
Yeah,
What-
they're told, but
It's the
action you take. They
ancillary
need to
parties who may
know.
not know.
right, that's
The
what I'm
rest of
talking.
them don't know, right, okay. That's what I meant.
That's what we're talking.
So other people are saying, well, somebody grieved that, but we don't know what happened. Well, that's between that individual and us. If both parties agree to release it, then it can be released.
Or if the
As
grievance is,
far as anybody else knows, they don't know what the action was.
they would know if the grievance was something that affected policy,
Yes,
then they would know as the policy got affected.
right.
They
And
would
what
know.
about contracts?
I have no problems with releasing contracts. Once we've,
Depending on what-
union contract is case in point, that gets released to the delegation. When that is settled, we don't release it until the delegation takes action because it's not in effect, it's still being negotiated until the delegation approves the funding.
Right, well,
or
I know all
approval
that.
of it.
I know all that,
Yeah.
okay. So do you know how many contracts you've looked at in the last year that you haven't released?
A lot of well, no, we released all those.
Well, we haven't seen any non-public minutes in quite a while.
I can't think of the contract.
You don't have to do it now, we're just,
Yeah.
these
We
are
can
the kind of
review
things
them.
that we're
Yeah,
curious
yeah.
about.
I think most of them are grievances, personnel matters, and
Yeah.
not contracts.
Usually personal.
We can go back and look.
Okay. Well, we'd appreciate that, because those are the public's
Yeah.
concerns.
Yes.
So, Tom, if I understand you then, what you're basically saying is you don't have enough manpower to go over these cases.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
basically, then you're making the decision, it's a law that you have to release them. Now you're making a decision of which laws you're gonna obey.
Oh, no.
Well, you just told us
He
that.
didn't say that.
Objection.
This is being taped, by the way.
Please note, get my objection. No, I'm not saying that budget determines what laws we abide by. What I'm saying is that, and I'm not saying that things that have been sealed are not being released, because I don't know. To the extent that I've been involved in them, I've given my advice and counsel to the commission. So I'm not going to make any statement on that, and I think that's what Commissioner Sorensen was trying to say, is that many of these things just simply can't be released. I mean, they continue to be not released because they involve other counsel or other, and see, then it wouldn't be my decision if they asked it. It would be that counsel that, you know, has reviewed that particular matter, that was then sealed, and make sure that all the facts and circumstances don't violate the release under the right to know. So, no, I'm not saying that, you know, it's a budgetary matter, but if...
It is time consuming.
It is
Sure
time.
sounded like that to me.
Well, it has, just because of my own personal observations on what's been going on. I mean, there has been a lot of talk and filming on public minutes and corrections and all these things, and that all adds to the whole bailiwick that we're here today about. But as far as the important things like following the law, that's why the commission had consulted me to make sure that, you know, we try and, you know, adhere to the law. And I think that is their goal and intention, and they will do it. So I think, but they need a little time, and hopefully they've got the time to do it.
I have another question for the chairman. You are here 11 years. How did you do it before then? How did you release the non-public minutes in all these years?
I don't think they ever were.
They weren't.
They weren't.
Oh, you didn't release all these years?
That's our point.
Oh.
Well, and there's a reason. Sometimes.
We never had the public, for one thing. It was strictly the three of us that met downstairs in our office.
So you just had public minutes only?
Yeah.
Or sort of?
Well, usually if you go into non-public, and if you've done it properly under the proper things for the reasons stated in the statute, usually that's why they stay sealed, because of the content of them. Now, if there's a particular circumstance where that changes, and then it isn't, or it's then the information is released that determines that it isn't non-public, then that could be on a case-by-case basis. And I've seen organizations and municipalities do that. And I'm sure that's what they will do, if it's a concern, if something has been missed. But, 11 years, there's been a lot of commissioners here and a lot of water over there.
And when did that law go into effect?
Oh, 91A?
Yeah,
Oh, that's been for a long time.
a long time.
At least 25.
But David's
Really?
right, Tom. There was only the 3 commissioners, so nobody came in and asked any questions. When
That's
we first started company, I believe Maureen kept track of one period of time. We were in non-public session, was it 68 or 69% of the time?
Yeah.
We come in here every single week. There's non-public by somebody,
Right.
and to go 8 or 10 months, take your pick, and not have any released. I mean, they can't all be cases that are so secret that they can't be made public. I mean, there's got to be one somewhere that we could get. And I don't know who's responsible, whether they get the final adjudication of the case and give it to you, or whether they only give you the ones that they think that you should and they're handling. But someone ought to be releasing something sometime.
Well, and on all I was saying, and what I was trying to say about record management, Dave, is, I mean, you take the governor and council's record management and case agenda and with the councilors and the governor, I mean, that's got to be somebody's jobs, plural, to just
Right.
organize, staff, manage, get to these boards, and, I don't think that's in place here in Carroll County. And if we're talking about 10 or 11 years, you're talking that type of review. But it's just, I think, going forward, I think that all should be right up front, and I think it was very proper for you to bring that up and make that point, and I don't see the commission not adhering to it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Public? Yes, Dan.
On a slightly different topic, I don't know if Tom's been following the debate over what's a line item and what's an appropriation, but it would make a big difference in terms of how you manage your department and all the other departments in the county.
I will say that in Tom's defense, he was one that requested that all department heads review that policy change. And we had talked with him about it. But go ahead. What?
Didn't we take care of that in public?
What's that?
Don't we have to pass that as a change?
Not yet.
We haven't done
No,
it yet?
no, today, I hope.
Yeah, okay.
We're talking about the policy and the line items that we had talked about and discussed. We sent it out to all department heads at Tom's request, and you got something back from the sheriff.
No, that had nothing to do with it.
Had nothing to do with it? Okay.
Just
Then
wondering
we
if
have-
Tom had any thoughts about it.
We have not had any.
Well, as I said to the commission, I just think that, that we should adhere to the law, they should, they need policies to manage it. I think, it's a checks and balance, it's a way to effectively manage these issues and keep the budget under control. And so I don't fault the commission for trying to do what they're doing, and I compliment them on, trying to involve the department heads to the extent that they have input on it.
And there needs to be some flexibility. For example, the unemployment tax, that jumped up after we approved the budget. Every department got hit with an increase in unemployment, depending on the economy. Health benefits, lots of times that comes up later as far as the increase. The wages that the union settled on, we budgeted for 2%, and the union contract was between 1 and 3. Well, it came out 2.8, so we were 0.8 of a point over budget on those items. So I think with the commissioners having a little bit of flexibility, giving that to the department heads for a good reason, I think that's good management. You had a question, go ahead.
Yes, Tom, I'm not asking you for your opinion on what we did or what we've suggested as a delegation, but what is your definition of a line item and an appropriation?
Well,
Do you agree that the